From Australia to France, the death of George Floyd continues to dominate the papers, and it's really sparked some soul-searching about the general treatment of Black people by police around the world. In fact, that's the focus of this article from the Washington Post today. The Post asking, why do the US protests matter so much to the rest of the world? In Australia, we've seen that it's really revived memories of the death of an Aboriginal man in police custody in 2015. According to a former ambassador cited by the Post in this article, it's also because people around the world understand that their own battles for human rights and equality would be much more difficult if the America of Martin Luther King, if the America of I Have a Dream were to disappear. Now, there have been some ripple effects of the US protests here in France. Le Parisien is focusing on the protests that took place on Tuesday, where thousands of people took to the streets to protest against police brutality. It comes after an autopsy showed that a young man of African origin, Adama Traore, died by asphyxiation while in police custody in 2016, and many protesters brandishing signs with both Adama Traore and George Floyd's names. The New York Times today is looking at the US protests as well, and in particular the ubiquity of masks being worn. Obviously, it's a medical necessity during this pandemic, but it's also become a tool for protest, one to highlight the divide between protesters and figures of authority. The Times explaining that those who support wearing a mask see it as a, quote, act of civic duty, an affirmation of scientific authority. To its detractors like Donald Trump or Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro, it's seen as weak and emasculating. We mentioned Donald Trump there. Well, let's end with a cartoon by Peter Brooks, the cartoonist at the Times of London, who features Donald Trump in this scathing illustration, a recreation of Iwo Jima. Here you see Donald Trump telling troops to plant the US flag, but that US flag is impaled on the body of George Floyd with his chilling last words, "I can't breathe." It's a real striking condemnation on Donald Trump's attitudes towards the protests.